Hello, Jamaica. Hello, world. Thank you for joining me here on the Elevata Live podcast with Odin. I'm your host, Odin Brooks. Here on the Elevata Live podcast, I showcase young people who are doing exceptional work in their community. We seek to reverse the stereotype about young people and to curate a narrative that showcases the excellent work that young people are doing. This week on the elevator, it is no different. I have an excellent Jamaican young man to tell his story, a story of motivation and inspiration. And as you can be aware from all my previous episodes, these are the kind of stories that I share here on the Elevator Live podcast. This week, I have with me Mr. Clayton Bolton. Mr. Clayton Bolton is an active citizen. Mr. Bolton is involved in national service. He is a youth development leader, and he has interestingly recently completed a fellowship in the United States. So you can see clearly that this is a young man that is doing exceptional work and one that is recognized not only locally, but he's also recognized internationally. It is really good to have you on the Elevator Live podcast, Mr. Bolton. How are you
I'm I'm
doing?
I'm happy to be on the podcast, Mr. Brooks. I'm
Wonderful,
I'm extremely happy to be on this great
wonderful,
podcast.
wonderful. Good to hear. So let's get into the discussion so our elevators can know a little bit about you. Share with us your early years of growing up. What was that like?
So firstly, was I was born and raised in a rural community in St. Catherine, right? Berry Hill, St. Catherine. I said before, it's a rural farming community, right? I wouldn't say life was really hard, but living in a rural community, you're far away from school, you're far away from where formal activities, are taking place, right? You're not exposed to a large number of professionals such as doctors, teachers, lawyers, and attorney. Instead, you're exposed more to farming, farming, right, and some other jobs, right? However, I wouldn't say life was hard, right? But growing up in a rural community, you do have access to the internet. Transportation is was relatively difficult. A large amount of persons traversing, however, we could count the amount of taxis on one hand, right? And it means that if you're going to school and if you miss the taxi at 5 o'clock, you might as well go back home because by the time the next taxi should come, it's lunchtime at school. And by the time you reach school, school over, right? So going to school, high school for the 5 years, you had to always carry a female. You had no choice. You're either going to stay or well, as we'd say, lap out, right? And also, growing up in the rural community, I I don't know if it's the same experience for you, but growing up in the rural community, I was exposed to some really good discipline. Your mommy told you, to be respectful, to address people as sir, miss. You have to go to church. Literally have to go to church every Sunday. If it rains or if it's a sunshine, you get a Bible that big as you and you have to go to church, right? And I think that is integral in my development and my identity and the person I am today. Very responsible, very responsible, manageable, very obedient, and some other good personal values. You expose you're going to church, it really acts as a moral compass and
Yes.
a moral guide. And as I said before, even in the rural community, again, you're forced to being resourceful, right? And again, that's something I take with me, right? So growing up in rural community, I think I didn't say it was hard, but it forced you to really do more.
Uh,
Yes, thank you.
I can fully appreciate what you made mention there. And you made the point about the environment being one that cultivated certain principles within you from very early. Talk to us some more about those principles and why were those principles important, and also link it to how it has shaped you as an individual today.
As said before, right? Growing up in the rural community, there wasn't much distraction. For example, you don't have much access to the internet where you could, watch all the music, the videos, and use TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, right? So there wasn't much to do than go to church, go to school, and have basically sit and speak and have a conversation with your grandmother or your grandfather. And I mean, many people can tell you that if you sit and have a discussion with your grandfather or your grandmother, there's so much that you will learn in terms of culture. And grandparents are known to focus on discipline. For example, I would have been able to, live for some time with my grandfather. And his three favorite words are knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And he's basically saying that education is the key, right? You must be competent. He always talks about, being respectful, not saying respect people in terms of who they are, but respecting people in terms of the career, but respecting each and everyone, right? Also, I said before, going to church, learn about honesty, having, being close to God, right? That again will keep you, right? Keep you safe. The Christian values again looks at, fairness, honesty, right? And doing things in decency and in order. And if we look at, now being a young professional, it's very important that we do our day-to-day activities or our professional responsibilities in decency and in order. And if you do that, then you're operating based on the policies that you're guided by. In the work environment, again, you're asked to be respectful, right? You're asked to follow the rules. You're asked to treat your coworkers well. And these are some of the values that I would have already learned and adopted, from my earlier years living in my rural community.
Wow,
Thank you.
quite impressive. And it's important that you made the point that those values are important in how you operate currently, not only within your professional circle, but also as an individual. And so that is important in the
Correct.
wider scheme of things. But you sound very like an individual who is driven. Share with us what drives you, what gets you alive, what motivates you to get up every day.
I think what motivates me most really is, just wanting to make my parents proud, particularly my mother, right? She worked extremely hard, right? To ensure that I were able to receive a good education. She always said that, make the most of high school. She works extremely hard to provide and to ensure that I have the resources, right? So I think it's only fair that I do my part, which is to excel, which is always to excel. And by excelling, I know that she'll be happy. right? And who doesn't want to make their parents proud, right? So as I always tell people, when if I excel, for example, when I go and see them at sunrise, Smile Jamaica. Even if my mother missed the interview and she's going on the road, she's going to the shop, to the supermarket, taking a bus, someone will say, "I saw your son on TV." She's happy, right? Just knowing that her son that she raised went on TV and she knew I represented well, right? So I always find motivation, in knowing that e- each time I achieve, accomplish greater things, good things, consider which is right, will make her happy. So it's not about, for me, it's not about, making a lot of money and getting rich at this stage, right? And wanting to buy a big house and a big car for now. It's about making my mommy happy and making my mommy happy, right? So I make all effort to remain focused, set some big goals, and to continually push myself, to reach higher levels in society. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. You made the point just now about making big goals, and I must inform my elevators that that comment is not just empty talk, but you have demonstratively shown that you are making big goals, big plans, and those are actually coming through. You would have recently been in the United States on a fellowship. Talk to our
Yes,
elevator
it's incorrect.
about that fellowship and share with us what is the significance of such what seemed to be a one in a million opportunity.
For sure, yes. In 2021, 2022, I was one of two Jamaican, right, that was selected to participate in the community engagement exchange. Only 130 persons were selected for this prestigious fellowship from more than 90 countries, from more than 6,000 applications, right?
Wow.
For for a candidate to be selected as a finalist, your application and your interviews were basically reviewed by five independent panel of judges,
Mm-hmm.
which consist of civil society experts from the United States of America. Right. So again, it's a significant achievement, right? But if you are young and competent and you have demonstrated leadership and show that you're passionate about supporting positive youth development and supporting the transformation of your community, right? I think you should be able to compete with some of the brightest, you know, brightest people in your age group, which I was able to do, and continues to do, right? So the fellowship, what it does is that it connects young civil society leaders across the world with civil society organizations in the US based on their area of interest. For example, if you're interested in climate change, if you're interested in mentorship, if you're interested in governance, right, you will be connected with an organization operating in your area of interest in the United States of America. Right. I wanted to learn more about how I could engage young people, right, in terms of supporting their personal and academic development. And as such, I think effective mentorship was ideal. And as such, I wanted to be matched with an organization that mentors middle-aged youth, right? And I was matched with Bold Options, located in Minneapolis, USA, right? Again, the program was fully funded, sponsored by the US government, right? And implemented by IREX, right? Going on the program, I would have, I was were able to visit multiple states across the US to include Washington, D.C., Miami, Wisconsin, Michigan, and a few other. No cost to me, right? A lot of plane flights. So many flights, right? I was matched with an host family. The family, so I basically live with a family in the US for 4 months.
Oh.
I was able to attend University of St. Thomas to learn project management. I received continuing education units from George Mason University. I also were able to do a research course at the University of Minnesota. No cost to me, right? I was able to visit the White House. And again, I always find it funny to tell people that the White House is not a very large building, which I thought it was. Going there and see it's a pretty small building. It's not huge, but many people think it would be. You would think it would be large also, but it's not. All right. Yes, I was able to visit Washington D.C. and visit the White House. And in the fellowship, I would have benefited from leadership development training, right, in areas of peace building, again, governance, climate change, right? Basically, you're exposed to other areas that other fellows are working in.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you had expertise, you could be able to contribute to, basically give them ideas of how they could amplify their efforts in their community, right? And also in the project. Again, I wanted to see how I can engage young people, right? So again, when I was in the US, there was a number of we had a number of violent incidents in schools across Jamaica, stabbing incidents. So I say, well, I'm learning mentorship, but I do not want to leave the US not having learned peace building,
Before
peace
before
education, and peace promotion.
before you go on the peace component, because this is really good information. Share with us why you would have opted for the mentorship component of the program. What about mentorship that would have stood out to you, and would you have benefited previously from mentorship?
Sure, sure. I would have mentored previously from mentorship. I always tell people that what changed my life really in terms of me, becoming more confident in my abilities, and taking a decision to, to always lead by example, and to always, have an interest in continuous learning and continuous education is because of mentorship, right? Being in sixth form, you're in sixth form and the teachers, kind of say, kind of see you as a bright student, and as
Mm-hmm.
such they want to say that they want to see you continue to excel. And as such, I would say, somewhat adopted by my sociology teacher. She would say, Bolton, if you should just settle down a little bit more. I mean, you have the potential, but I want you to be a little bit more settled in terms of the direction that you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So choose something you want to learn. For example, you should say, do you want to learn maths, the sciences? Do you want to continue with sociology? Would you branch off into law, psychology, right? Be more focused, have some more clear goals, and just try and do more, right? So for me, that is mentorship because she was seeing abilities and potential that I was not as good as I was at that time. I was not seeing that. I was just, I mean, we can do schoolwork, so we just do schoolwork, but we don't really have no main focus. We say, oh, law it is. If we do Caribbean studies, we just do schoolwork and I go through. She says, be more settled, be more focused. So understanding and knowing that, it's someone advice that changed my life. I was motivated and inspired to always share my leadership experience, right, with other young people, knowing that somebody might be inspired by your story and someone might learn from what you have to share. And as such, I was interested in mentorship because I would have benefited from mentorship and continues to, right? I
Oh,
have a number of mentors who are professionals. And they say, what's your 10-year plan? And so, wanted to learn project management. They say that is good, but how does it connects to your 10-year plan? If it doesn't connect, it make no sense doing it, right? So again, benefited from mentorship. So just by being able to benefit from it, I think it's the ideal way for me, to give back to young people. And again, I I'm convinced that Jamaica lock I mean, there's not much positive role model,
mm-hmm.
for young people to emulate. And I guess that, this is why people are assuming that dancehall artists, are becoming so influential and dancehall music influencing crime. It's because, the teachers, the doctors, the lawyers, other professionals, they fail to be role models in terms of being able to impact and engage young people. And as such, they turn to the music,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? I think you're right. And I guess they turn to the music. So for me, I wanted to learn mentorship, to be able to engage young people. Just as I said before, you want to be the change that you want to see in society. So I want to see more young professionals engaging young people. And the easiest way for me was, to learn mentorship. And, I go ahead and I was matched with the organization. I learned the fundamentals of effective mentorship to the point that I'm confident that if I have the resources, I can lead a youth organization. Not no
Wonderful.
small clubs, but a national organization with the resources. But
One
I mean, the future is ahead, and I am confident that I'll accomplish great things. It's a matter of time, right? Thank you.
cer certainly, it's a matter of time. So we'll now take
Time,
a commercial break to give our elevators little time to go and get little water, and then rejoin us
for sure.
as we pick up on part two of the discussion. You're listening to the Elevator Live podcast with Thank you for rejoining me here on the Elevator Live podcast with Odin. I'm your host, Odin Brooks, and I'm speaking with Mr. Clayton Bolton. And Mr. Bolton was sharing with us his experience from his recent visit to the United States of America, not on vacation, but on a very prestigious fellowship program. So, Mr. Bolton, before the break, you would have been alluding to the fact that you would have chosen to pursue a body of work as it relates to peace building. Share with us why peace building and what do you think are some of the things that are contributing to violence within the Jamaican society?
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Brooks. I said before, I would have, gone on the C Fellowship, the Community Engagement Exchange Program Fellowship, with my intentions set on learning mentorship, right? And as such, I was matched with one of the leading youth mentorship organization in the US, Boulder Option, right? But while in the US, undergoing my fellowship and internship, there was a number of incidents in schools across Jamaica where students have been stabbed, assaulted, robbed, etc. And as such, I see it fit, right? To do something or to kind of shift could kind of, coin the project in a way that will now include mentorship, but also peace building, peace education, and peace promotion. Right? So while the project will integrate a one-on-one mentorship where students will be matched with professionals and they will go through a series of activities, just to facilitate the engagement, and to facilitate communication, between a student and a professional, right? There's so much a student can learn from a professional. For example, having a male student interacting with someone who is as trained, and competent as you, there is a wealth of knowledge that you can transfer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what we're looking at getting done. Also, the peace building aspect now, it looks at, you know, engaging students in a way that will allow them to understand that you can resolve conflicts without physical violence. We want to teach them the principles of conflict resolution, conflict management, right? We want to create peace gardens in schools, right? We want to have a celebration on September 1, International Peace Day. So we're looking at having music, drama, poems, right? Just to make the concept of peace more popular
Mm-hmm.
among students. We're looking at having roundtable discussions with students so that we can have an idea of their understanding of what peace is and where works need to be done, right? Just to ensure that they have a good understanding of what peace building is. And there's a number of other activities, that we'll be looking at integrating activities that support peace building, peace education, peace promotion in school. And the objective is really, to try and prevent some of these incidents,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm also looking forward to engaging the parents because I'm of the opinion that sometimes the violence is caused by issues at home and also in the community. And as you would have asked, some of the factors that contributed to it. Some of the time, the child, the student is exposed to conflicts, to violence, which is a major problem in Jamaica, in the community.
Yes.
And as such, they take the same behavior into the school environment. Again, it's what they're exposed to. So if there is no corrective measure, they will have to do it. Sometimes it's poor parenting. Sometimes the parents are violent themselves.
Yeah.
I've seen
Mm-hmm.
cases where students, fight at school. The teacher send for the parent, and the parent come and fight at the teacher, right? And join his or her child and fight the other child, or they want to fight the teacher and the principal. So again, it's sometimes the problem is homegrown, whether it's in the home or in the community. Again, I think it's a lack of positive positive role models. For example, we can easily go on TikTok and Instagram and see someone who is famous with 10,000 followers, you know, dancing and singing and you know and doing some other things. But we, it's hard. It's very hard to find someone who is say so who is say, oh, yeah, I'm a youth leader. I'm a peace advocate who is trending.
Yeah.
So again, being responsible, being a responsible student is not trending. It's not hot, right? So person like me and you, we need to start trending to show students again that you can be competent and cool. You can be competent and trend. Because again, also I think that again, the violence in school sometimes is a result of attention seeking, right? Because if you are to watch the videos where students will use a knife to stab each other, it is always in a large crowd, and you have some other students cheering them on. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like they're doing it for the cheers, right? It's always and the other students cheering them on, and say stop up the girl, and then they continue to fight. So
Yeah.
most times it's attention seeking, right?
Certainly.
So again,
It,
I think those are some of the factors that needs to be addressed. And that those are some of the factors I look towards correcting. And I think the most effective way is really I mean, I said, and just to say, as a public policy student, we learn the importance of engagement and participation, right? So again, for me, it's about engaging the students in activities that supports peace building and allowing them again to participate in activities that, you know, support peace building that will teach them the concept and the principles of peace building indirectly, right?
So,
Thank you
sounds
very Thank you for the
s-
question.
sounds really good, and you raised some important points there, points that is points for policymakers to contemplate and for communities to also contemplate as to how we go about cultivating more modeled citizens. But listening to
Yes.
you, Clayton, you sound very visionary in your articulation. You are able to identify the issues. But if I may ask, was there ever a point that you doubted or you thought that you would not be at this level of success? Was there ever a point?
Yes. Yes. There was a time, and again, this is why I'm so into mentorship, right? I said before, I wasn't the best student. I wasn't the brightest. I wasn't even close to being the most disciplined or the most responsible. But I always knew that I had the potential to excel, right? So at one point I was just, going to school. It's a regular routine. But in terms of having a clear goal to say, guess what? I want to have 10 subjects. I want to have 20 subjects. I want to go to university. That was not me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I always tell people if someone would have told me that in 2023 I'd have been awarded a C fellowship, you know, achieve a bachelor's degree in public policy and management, and now close to completing a master's, I'd have probably, engaged them in a fight, a physical fight, right? Because I did not see that possible for myself. But I said before, being in sixth form, someone saw the potential, so they think it was possible for me. So I was saying to myself, if a teacher can say that if I settle down, I can be really good, then if someone can see it for me, it means that I can see it for myself and see even bigger things, right? And again, that was mentorship for me. I grew, gradually to have more confidence in my abilities. Also, in high school, I was not involved in student leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Never. Not in seventh grade, not eight, not nine, not 10, not 11. I don't join any clubs. At school over, I go home. I was not no head boy, no prefect. I was just a regular student. And
But
because I was overly quiet, I was just the people. Some people don't even know me, right? I was very, very quiet. One of the most reserved students. I've had experience where students come to me at school and say, "Can you talk?" And I say, "I can talk. I can talk," but they have never heard me speak before, and they have never seen me talking, right? But again, as I said before, being mentored in sixth form, and you start having more confidence in your abilities, and
mm-hmm.
you know, I remember coming on Facebook and I would have seen your profile. I mean, you're doing this for a long time. And I say, and I saw your profile, and it was, for me, it was inspiring, because you were very active, and you could see your posts and see that you have some strong opinions about governance and politics, right? And then luckily I came to UE and, saw you at UE and like, wow, this kid is really good. So I would like to. I know I'm not going to be a Brooks, but there are so many things that you were emulating at the time and doing at the time that I wanted to do, knew I could do, and that's what I find motivation in your work. I mean, you know it. I said it all the times, and continues to. Right, again, that's mentorship. I mean, you were conducting it you were conducting yourself in a way that you know young people could find inspiration in it, and be encouraged by it, right? And see greater things for themselves, right? And as
In-
such, I started to go to some schools, and I mean, I wasn't the best speaker, but my plan was really to learn from every opportunity, and to speak better tomorrow than I was speaking yesterday. And I
cer-
was able to learn, and continue to grow.
Certainly, and the
And
growth
here I am today
on the Elevator Live podcast,
on the
the,
elevator podcast.
the growth is
Yes,
definitely there, and that is what
definitely.
we want to showcase on this platform. That it is not
Yes,
about the hype, it is not about
yes,
popularity, and that is particularly the reason
so
why
true.
I've opted this approach. Persons might say why I might not necessarily have famous persons. It is not that I'm not
Hmm.
able to get those persons, but it is to give young people who are doing exceptional work and they are not as celebrated as others.
Same.
A
Yes,
platform like this,
and I would have made that point previously. The
yes,
young talents are not being celebrated,
indeed.
not being given the highlight. Yes, for real.
So I'm happy that you are able to showcase that. But I want to ask you, Clayton, there are several young men, especially, they are in socially challenged communities. They don't see any hope right now. What would you say to them? They are in a state of despair. What would you say to them?
Firstly, I would ask them to first, to be motivated by their circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We understand that there are, a number of challenges, affecting our youths across the various communities. However, you face a challenge, right, today, but you don't want to be facing the same challenge tomorrow. Right? So your only choice now is to find a solution, to put yourself in a position to have a better tomorrow.
Indeed.
And as such, your current circumstances where there's a lacking of resources, it should force you now to become more resourceful. And being resourceful now, it looks at you using the limited resources that is available to you, whether it be you can only go to school one time a week, right? You can't afford university. It means that you should now study harder to be able to access a scholarship, right? So again, its situation is bad, yes, but let it be a motivation to you. Let it force you to do more, and let it force you to work harder, study harder, to be more creative, and to be more to make it let it force you to want to be a voice for other
Mm-hmm.
youngsters who are experiencing the same challenge. Because I can tell you, if for example you're a young person, right, and you're facing enormous challenges, but you choose to now become the voice of the voiceless, and you start to advocate for things like having easier access to tertiary education, for better funding policies, employing the government to do more to support youths in underdeveloped communities and youths in rural communities. Again, you are doing something that is not being done, and that can create opportunities for you. You are in the said situation, but what? You are now operating in a way that will create opportunities for you just by advocating,
Wow, that
right?
That's
The
really
situation has not changed, but you are responding to it in a meaningful way, right? Yes. So
that
I
that
always keep the word resourceful to my heart.
yes, that's a powerful point which I know our listeners and viewers can readily agree with. So you are currently on the last lap of your master's,
Last final lap,
your final
final
lap.
lap.
So share with our elevators some more about your master's program and what is your ultimate career goal, what your ultimate career goal is.
Well, good question. I'm having a very meaningful experience in the graduate program. Again, I in sixth form, being exposed to sociology, political science. I found out then that public policy, government, the public sector, is something that I'd want to work in, right? And as such, I'd have pursued the bachelor's degree in public policy and management, the Masters of Science degree in international public and development management, and as you said, final lab, completing the research paper, right? I'm looking forward to working in the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Youth, right? I think I would excel in terms of policy level,
Mm-hmm,
right? I always think that more work can be done in terms of youth policy to really support easier access to education, and really developing projects to implement at the community level to support positive youth development to ensure that our young people, can grow into becoming facilitators of and contributors to national development. And again, just to add, I will go back to my rural upbringing in the rural community. I'd have visited my rural community like a few days ago, and I asked someone a question. Can you tell me how close how close is the nearest art where you can go and learn a skill? It was, I mean, it was they couldn't tell me, right? So again, a young person living in a rural community, probably not able to attend university, and they're not able to access training, right?
mm-hmm,
And that looks at having development that is widespread. But if you live in Kingston, you can access multiple,
mm-hmm,
right? So the development is not widespread. I think you'd want to have a development where you can live in rural Jamaica and you can easily access training. You can easily access the internet. You can easily access education. You can easily access, opportunities for growth.
mm-hmm.
So again, I'm looking forward to working in government ministry at the management or the policy level. And
Sounds
I think once I get there, it will be my biggest dreams coming true.
wonderful, and I'm very confident that you will be able to achieve that milestone. Um,
Sure, it's a matter of time.
indeed. Um, how do you overcome challenges?
Can you repeat the question, please?
No, yes. I was asking, how do you overcome challenges?
Firstly, I overcome challenges by being resourceful.
Mm-hmm,
Always, right, by being resourceful, and that looks at using the resources that I have at the best of my ability. I'm always seeking advice. Right, for example, if I'm having difficulties, I will, if I know anyone who would have experienced the same challenge, right, I would have training that I think I could benefit from. I would consult that person, right? I'd also understand that for every challenge, there's an opportunity. So I'd, for example, say that what if this challenge is actually forcing me to become better?
Mm-hmm.
What if this challenge is forcing me, to become more disciplined, to make better decision, to have a more formidable personality, to make more decisions that are informed,
Yeah.
right? What if this challenge is really pushing me to the next big opportunity, right? So I always maintain a mindset, a positive mindset, remain
Important.
optimism and knowing that, you don't know it all. And everything that you're going to experience, someone experienced it before you previously. And it would be good if you, seek advice and also professional support. So again, for me, it's about, having a positive mindset, being willing, to seek advice. And I think that is also a problem with men in Jamaica. We
Yes.
don't seek advice. I don't know why, but if we have a problem, we just get angry, become physical. We don't open up and talk to others, right? So for me, I communicate and try and make the decision that will, lead to the best possible outcome.
Absolutely. That's a solid and a strategic approach to overcoming challenges. We're getting down to the end of this episode, but I want to engage you on your top three issues, and we're gonna be doing this in a kind of more economic way in terms of time. Your
Hmm.
top three major issues that are facing young people. One.
I would say access to tertiary education.
Mm-hmm. Two.
Should I say access to tertiary education? I think the second one would be, we say jobs, access
Mm-hmm.
to employment opportunities.
Okay. And your
And
final one?
the third one would be, and again, I think, lack of widespread development.
Okay. And
I think that let me add to that one.
mm-hmm.
I've seen cases where persons are leaving St. Catherine, St. Mary, Trelawney, someone work in Kingston. I don't think it should be that way. And then they have to pay this high transportation cost from like Clarendon to come to Kingston to work. Why? Because the development is concentrated in Kingston. The urbanization is concentrated in and around Kingston. And again, as a public policy student, I understand the importance of having development that is widespread.
Certainly.
So we're having BPOs in Kingston. We can have BPOs in St. Catherine. We can have BPOs in St. Mary and in Clarendon. And it would create so many opportunities, right? Yes. So I think those are the biggest challenges, affecting young people at this time.
And those are indeed major challenges that continues to beset consecutive political administration, and so it requires a
Yes.
unified approach to respond to those challenges. So finally, share with us, where do you see yourself in the next, say, 5 years from now?
In the next 5 years from now, I see myself. Sometimes I think I wanted to do politics
Mm-hmm.
because I think I have a real love for community development. And just really, I keep talking about widespread development and really, moving rural communities forward. But I think if I go into politics and, and once I keep the vision alive, I, will be able to accomplish it. So again, it's in the future, so you don't know. Probably you might see me doing politics, right? It's it's possible. And also, I see myself, whether or not I'm able to join any of the government ministry, but really developing and proposing policy, right, in areas of security, youth engagement, education, climate change, and also tourism. And I'm developing the habit, of wanting to understand the different sectors of society, whether or not I have a professional career in that sector. So, becoming well rounded, so in the future you might, see me becoming, say, I would say just a responsible citizens that want to see the best for Jamaica. And regardless
Yes.
of where I'm at, I'm just, pushing for Jamaica, pushing and believing, for example, a crime-free Jamaica.
That
Yes.
that's the essence of it. Irrespective of where you are at, you will be contributing positively to Jamaica. And that is the spirit of an
Yes.
elevator. You elevate irrespective of where you are
Where you
planted
are.
currently. So thank you, Mr. Bolton. It was really refreshing to engage with you on the Elevator Live podcast. I'm sure my
Yes.
listeners, viewers would definitely agree that they would have taken away significant insights from the discussion just now. Great work that you're doing. And these are the kind of stories that I share on this platform. It is about reversing the narrative about young people. It is about reinforcing that youth is a force to be reckoned with, and young people have much
Indeed.
to contribute. Young people,
Contribute.
young people only require a platform, and I've started
Yes.
to
And
provide
that and
that
that has been missing. And that has been missing for so long.
indeed, and that is the essence of this platform. So thank you again for joining me, Clayton, and thank our listeners as well for joining. This has been the sixth episode of the Elevator Live podcast. In the new season, which I will start next week, there is no break. I will be focusing on NGO leaders, young people who are leading nonprofit organizations and who are doing excellent work. So join me next week for another story, another motivation as I seek to elevate the discourse